The phone slips from my fingers, clattering against the kitchen counter before I can catch it. Ethan's voice still echoes in my ear, each word sharp enough to draw blood. "Don't come to Christmas. You'll ruin everything, like you always do." I stand frozen at the sink, my hands gripping the edge of the granite countertop until my knuckles turn white. The late November afternoon light filters through the window above the sink, casting long shadows across the kitchen floor. Outside, the maple tree in our backyard has shed most of its leaves, leaving bare branches that scratch against the glass when the wind picks up. My reflection stares back at me from the darkened window. Harper Bennett, 38 years old, marketing consultant turned entrepreneur, wife of 11 years. The woman in the reflection looks smaller than I remember, her shoulders hunched forward as if she's been carrying an invisible weight for so long she's forgotten what it feels like to stand straight. I replay the conversation in my mind, trying to pinpoint the exact moment when my husband's words transformed from mere cruelty into something that felt like a declaration of war. We were supposed to discuss Christmas plans. That's what Ethan had said when he called during his lunch break. His mother, Patricia, was hosting the family gathering this year at her estate in Greenwich, the same sprawling colonial where Ethan had grown up. The same house where I'd spent countless holidays feeling like an intruder in someone else's carefully curated life. I'd been excited about the call, foolishly, desperately excited. I'd spent the morning working on a new campaign proposal for my consulting business, but I'd set it aside the moment his name appeared on my screen. Even after everything, even after months of growing distance and cold silences, I'd still hoped that maybe this year would be different. "Ethan, about Christmas, I was thinking we could bring that cranberry walnut bread I make. Your mother mentioned last year that she liked it." The pause on his end should have warned me. It stretched too long, filled with something heavier than simple consideration. "Actually, Harper, I've been meaning to talk to you about that." His voice had that careful, measured quality he used when delivering bad news to clients. Professional distance wrapped around personal rejection. Mom's putting together a more intimate gathering this year. Just immediate family. I'm your wife. I am immediate family. The words had come out before I could stop them, defensive and sharp. "You know what I mean. Madison's bringing Chase and the kids. It'll be crowded enough as it is. Madison, his younger sister who'd perfected the art of looking through me rather than at me. Madison, who brought her hedge fund manager husband and their 2 perfectly dressed children to every family event like they were walking advertisements for genetic superiority. So I'm not invited to Christmas." My voice had gone quiet, that dangerous kind of quiet that comes before something breaks. "Don't make this into more than it is. You always do this, Harper. You take everything personally and blow it out of proportion. That's exactly why this year needs to be different. Mom's stressed enough without having to manage your sensitivities, my sensitivities, as if my pain at being excluded from my husband's family traditions was some character flaw I needed to overcome. As if 11 years of trying to fit into their world hadn't left me exhausted and hollow. The conversation had deteriorated from there. My questions met with his irritation, his justifications piling up like stones in a wall between us. And then, finally, the words that now loop endlessly through my mind. "Just stay home, Harper. You'll ruin everything like you always do." The dial tone had been a mercy after that. Now I stand in our kitchen, the kitchen I'd helped design when we bought this house in Westport 7 years ago, and I realize something fundamental has shifted. Not in him. He's been moving away from me for years, so gradually I'd convinced myself I was imagining it. The shift is in me, in the way I'm no longer scrambling to fix this, to apologize for whatever unnamed crime I've committed, to make myself smaller and more palatable. Instead, I feel something cold and clear, crystallizing in my chest. determination maybe, or just the final shedding of illusions I'd been clinging to long past their expiration date. My laptop sits open on the kitchen table, displaying the proposal I'd been working on before Ethan's call. The screen has dimmed to conserve power, but I can still make out the header: Hartman Medical Group Digital Transformation Initiative. 3 months of work condensed into a 70-page document that could either launch my consulting business into a new stratosphere or confirm what Ethan's family has always believed about my little hobby, as his mother likes to call it. I walk over and wake the computer, scrolling through the executive summary I'd finished this morning. The proposal outlines a complete overhaul of Hartman Medical's patient engagement strategy. It's ambitious, maybe too ambitious, but Marcus Hartman had been impressed enough during our preliminary meetings to ask for a full pitch. Marcus, who'd found my consulting business through a referral from Grace, my best friend since college. Grace, who, unlike my husband's family, had never questioned whether my work was legitimate or just something to keep me busy while I waited to fulfill my real purpose of producing Bennett grandchildren. My phone buzzes with a text message. Grace, as if my thoughts had summoned her. Coffee tomorrow. I need to complain about wedding planning, and you need to tell me why you have that tone in your voice. I stare at the message, wondering how she'd detected a tone I hadn't even expressed. But that's Grace. She reads the silences between words better than most people read actual conversations. Can't tomorrow. Working on the Hartman pitch. Rain check? Her response comes immediately. Everything okay? My fingers hover over the keyboard. Everything is not okay. My husband just uninvited me from Christmas. My marriage is disintegrating so slowly, I'm not sure when the decay started. I'm 38 years old, and I feel like I've been living someone else's life for the past decade. Fine. Just busy. Talk soon. I set the phone face down on the table and return my attention to the proposal. If Ethan wants me to stay home for Christmas, I'll stay home. I'll use the time to perfect this pitch, to rehearse every response to every potential question Marcus might ask. I'll transform my husband's rejection into something productive, channel this sharp hurt into something that might actually matter. The house feels too quiet around me, too big. Ethan won't be home until late. He's been working late more often these past few months, though I've stopped asking why. The answers are always the same. Important client meeting, deadline for a case, drinks with colleagues to celebrate a win. Always legitimate, always reasonable, always leaving me alone in this house we bought together, but that has somehow become just his. I make myself a cup of tea, something herbal that's supposed to be calming, but mostly just tastes like disappointment. Then I settle at the kitchen table with my laptop and force myself to focus on the work in front of me. The Hartman proposal isn't just another consulting job. It's the kind of project that could establish my business as a serious player in healthcare marketing transformation. Marcus runs 5 medical practices across Connecticut and Massachusetts, with plans to expand into Rhode Island. If I can demonstrate real results with his existing operations, the referrals alone could sustain my business for years. But more than that, it's mine. This work, this proposal, this vision for how medical practices can better serve their communities while building sustainable business models. It's the first thing in years that feels entirely separate from being Ethan's wife or the daughter-in-law who never quite measures up to Patricia Bennett's exacting standards. I dive into the financial projections, double-checking every calculation, every assumption. Numbers have always made sense to me in a way that people often don't. There's clarity in spreadsheets, in conversion rates, and customer lifetime values. Input the right data, and you get predictable outputs. No hidden meanings to decipher. No wondering if you've somehow failed at being the person everyone expected you to be. Hours pass without my noticing. The winter darkness comes early in late November, and by the time I look up from my screen, the kitchen windows reflect only my own ghostly image floating in the black glass. My phone shows 3 missed calls from Ethan and a text message. Working late. Don't wait up. I don't respond. Instead, I save my work and close the laptop, suddenly aware of how much my shoulders ache from hunching over the keyboard. The house seems to hold its breath around me as if waiting to see what I'll do next. What I do is walk upstairs to our bedroom and open the closet where we keep the Christmas decorations. 3 large plastic bins, accumulated over years of trying to create the kind of picture-perfect holidays that Ethan's family takes for granted. Ornaments we bought on our honeymoon in Vermont. The handmade stockings I'd spent weeks crafting, embroidered with our initials intertwined. Lights and garland, and enough artificial cheer to transform any space into a greeting card tableau. I pull out the bins and carry them one by one to the guest bedroom at the end of the hall. The room we'd always said would be a nursery someday, back when someday felt like a promise rather than a reproach. Now it's just empty space, neutral gray walls and hardwood floors that echo with every footstep. I close the door and return to the master bedroom. If I'm not invited to Christmas with Ethan's family, then I won't pretend to celebrate it here either. Let the decorations stay packed away. Let him come home to a house as bare of holiday spirit as our marriage has become of genuine connection. It's a small rebellion. Pointless, maybe, but it feels necessary. Like drawing a line and saying this far, no further. Sleep doesn't come easily that night. I lie in bed, listening to the house settle around me, and I think about all the Christmases that came before this one. The first Christmas after our wedding, when Patricia had given me a subscription to cooking classes with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The implication was clear. Her son deserved better meals than I knew how to provide. Never mind that Ethan had praised my cooking when we were dating, when my simple pasta dishes were charmingly bohemian rather than evidence of inadequacy. The Christmas when Madison announced her first pregnancy, and I'd watched the family circle around her with an attention and tenderness they'd never offered me. The way Patricia's face had glowed when she talked about becoming a grandmother. The way no one had mentioned that I'd been part of the family longer than Madison's husband, that maybe, possibly, I might also want children someday. The Christmas when I'd tried to contribute to the conversation about politics and current events, only to have Ethan's father, Harold, cut me off with a condescending explanation of how these things really worked, as if my degree in communications and years of professional experience counted for nothing compared to his opinions formed over scotch and golf games. Year after year of feeling like a guest in what was supposed to be my family, year after year of Ethan defending them, explaining their behavior, asking me to understand their perspective, their stress, their way of doing things, never once asking them to understand mine. Somewhere around 2 a.m, I hear Ethan come home. His footsteps on the stairs, careful and quiet. He doesn't come into the bedroom. Instead, I hear the guest room door open and close. He's sleeping in there now, in the room where I'd hidden the Christmas decorations. I wonder if he'll notice them, if he'll care, if anything I do even registers with him anymore. The next morning, I wake to an empty house. Ethan's gone before I come downstairs, leaving nothing but a coffee mug in the sink and the lingering scent of his cologne. I don't know if he's avoiding me or if this is just our new normal, 2 people living separate lives under the same roof, intersecting only when absolutely necessary. I don't let myself dwell on it. Instead, I shower, dress in my most professional outfit, a charcoal gray suit that makes me feel armored against the world, and I head to my home office to continue work on the Hartman proposal. Grace calls around 10. I almost don't answer, but I know she'll just keep trying until I do. Okay, I tried to give you space, but clearly something's wrong. Coffee. Now. Lucia's in an hour. I could refuse. I should refuse. I have work to do. But Grace's voice carries that note of concern that breaks through my carefully maintained composure. Fine. 1 hour. Lucia's coffee house occupies a converted Victorian on the main street of Westport, all exposed brick and industrial lighting that somehow manages to feel cozy rather than cold. It's Grace's favorite spot, mostly because the owner, Lucia herself, makes a lavender honey latte that Grace claims is worth the 20-minute drive from her apartment in Norwalk. Grace is already there when I arrive, occupying our usual table in the back corner. She's dressed in what she calls her casual meeting clothes, dark jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my entire outfit, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She's a photographer, successful enough to pick and choose her clients, busy enough to complain about her schedule, but never busy enough to skip our coffee dates. "You look terrible," she says, by way of greeting, sliding a latte across the table toward me. "I ordered your usual." "Good morning to you, too." I sink into the chair across from her and wrap my hands around the warm cup, grateful for something to hold on to. Grace studies me with the same intense focus she brings to her photography work. I've known her since we were 18, since freshman orientation at NYU when she'd seen me struggling with an overstuffed suitcase and offered to help. 19 years of friendship means she can read me like a book with large print and highlighted passages. "Ethan?" she asks simply. I take a sip of my latte, buying time, trying to decide how much to tell her. Everything, probably. Grace has earned my honesty, even when it hurts to give it. He uninvited me from Christmas. Grace's espresso cup pauses halfway to her lips. He, what? His mother's hosting? Apparently, it's immediate family only this year, and I don't qualify. The profanity that Grace unleashes is both creative and cathartic. Several nearby customers glance our way, but she doesn't lower her voice as she dissects Ethan's character, his family's pretensions, and the general state of his moral fiber. Grace. I appreciate the support, but maybe inside voice? She takes a breath, visibly controlling herself. Sorry. But Harper, this is beyond unacceptable. You're his wife. You are immediate family. That's what I said. He disagreed. We sit in silence for a moment, Grace radiating fury while I feel oddly numb. The initial shock and pain from yesterday have settled into something colder and more resigned. What are you going to do? Grace finally asks. Work on the Hartman pitch. I shrug. What else can I do? You could tell him to go to hell. You could pack your bags. You could do literally anything except just accept this. I've been accepting things for 11 years. I trace the rim of my cup with one finger, accepting that I'm not good enough for his family, accepting that my career is just a hobby, accepting that I'm the problem in every conflict, the one who's too sensitive, too dramatic, too much of everything except whatever it is they actually want. Then stop accepting it. Grace leans forward, her voice dropping but losing none of its intensity. Harper, you're one of the smartest, most capable people I know. You built a consulting business from nothing while working a full-time job. You have clients who value your expertise and pay you well for it. You don't need Ethan or his family's approval. Knowing it and feeling it are different things. I meet her eyes. I spent so long trying to be what they wanted that I'm not sure I know who I actually am anymore. Grace reaches across the table and takes my hand. Then this is your chance to find out. Skip Christmas with them, work on your pitch, figure out what Harper wants, not what everyone else expects from her. Her words echo in my mind as I drive home an hour later. What do I want? It's a question I've been avoiding for years. Maybe because the answer might require changes I'm not ready to make. But now, sitting at a stoplight watching other cars pass by, I realize the changes are happening whether I'm ready or not. Ethan's already made his choice. The question is what I'll do about mine. The Hartman pitch presentation is scheduled for December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. Marcus had apologized for the timing, explaining that his partners wanted to make a decision before the new year, but several of them were traveling for the holidays. If I wanted the contract, I'd need to present right before Christmas. At the time, I'd agreed without hesitation, not knowing that those would be the same days I'd supposedly be ruining my in-laws' holiday celebration. Now, the timing feels almost providential. While Ethan's family gathers in Greenwich to celebrate without me, I'll be in Boston presenting the most important pitch of my career. I spend the next few weeks in a blur of preparation. Every morning I wake up, shower, and retreat to my home office before Ethan's even out of bed. Every evening I work until long after he's come home and sequestered himself in the guest bedroom. We're roommates now, nothing more. Ships passing in a house that feels increasingly like a way station rather than a home. He doesn't apologize for uninviting me to Christmas, doesn't ask how I'm doing or what I'm working on. The few times we do speak, it's about mundane logistics, who's picking up the dry cleaning, whether the heating system needs maintenance, the kinds of conversations strangers have in elevator small talk. Madison calls once, ostensibly to wish me an early happy Thanksgiving, but the real purpose becomes clear within minutes. So, Ethan mentioned you won't be joining us for Christmas. That's probably for the best. Mom's been so stressed planning everything. Has she? I keep my voice neutral. Oh, you know how she is. Everything has to be perfect. And with the kids getting older, she wants to make sure it's really special this year. The kids? Madison's children, Owen and Claire, who I've bought birthday presents for and babysat and genuinely tried to connect with. The grandchildren Patricia dotes on while barely acknowledging my existence. I'm sure it'll be lovely, I say, because what else is there to say? After Madison hangs up, I sit at my desk and I let myself feel it all. The hurt, the rejection, the accumulated weight of years of being treated like an inconvenient appendage to Ethan's real life. I let myself feel it, and then I let it fuel me. The Hartman proposal gets better with every revision, sharper, more focused, more compelling. I research Marcus's competitors, identify gaps in their strategies, develop solutions that are both innovative and practical. I create mock-ups of the patient engagement platform I'm proposing, complete with user interface designs and projected adoption rates. Grace checks in regularly, offering support and occasionally forcing me out of my office for meals. She's planning her wedding to Noah, her fiancé of 2 years, and she fills our coffee dates with stories about venue hunting and guest list dramas that feel blessedly distant from my own problems. Your colors are beautiful, I tell her, looking at the fabric samples she's brought to show me. The deep burgundy and gold feel rich without being overwhelming. I'm glad you think so. Noah's mother thinks they're too dark for a spring wedding. Grace rolls her eyes, because apparently she's an expert on weddings despite being married 3 times. At least she's consistently optimistic about marriage as an institution. I sip my latte and immediately wish I could take the words back. They came out more bitter than I'd intended. Grace gives me a long look. Have you talked to Ethan at all? About anything real? What's there to talk about? He's made his position clear. His position is bullshit. You know that, right? Knowing it doesn't change it. I set down my cup. Grace, can I ask you something? Always. Do you think I'm difficult? That I make things harder than they need to be? Grace's expression shifts from sympathy to something fiercer. Who told you that? Ethan. His mother. Madison. Pretty much everyone in his family at one point or another. I meet her eyes. Am I the problem they keep saying I am? Harper, listen to me. Grace leans forward. You are thoughtful, sensitive, and yes, you have standards for how you want to be treated. Those aren't character flaws. They're called having self-respect. The fact that Ethan's family can't appreciate that says everything about them and nothing about you. I want to believe her, but 11 years of being told I'm too much or not enough have worn grooves into my sense of self. December arrives with the first real snowfall of the season. I watch from my office window as the neighborhood transforms into something that belongs on a Christmas card. White-covered lawns, icicles hanging from roof lines, children building snowmen in their yards. It's achingly beautiful and completely irrelevant to my current reality. Ethan mentions, casually, over coffee one morning, that he'll be leaving for his mother's house on December 23rd and staying through the 26th. He doesn't ask about my plans, doesn't acknowledge that there's anything unusual about spending Christmas apart. I'll be in Boston, I say, for a business presentation. He looks up from his phone, genuine surprise crossing his face. On December 23rd? That's when my client could schedule it. I refill my coffee cup. Should be back late that evening. You're working on Christmas? His tone carries judgment wrapped in concern. I'm working before Christmas, the actual holiday I'll spend here, alone. I meet his eyes. Since I'm apparently not welcome at your family's gathering, for a moment something flickers across his face. Guilt, maybe, or regret. But it passes quickly, smoothed over by the defensive irritation I've come to know so well. You're choosing to take this personally. Because it is personal, Ethan. You uninvited your wife from Christmas. How else should I take it? He stands abruptly, grabbing his briefcase from the counter. I don't have time for this. I have an 8 o'clock meeting. After he leaves, I sit at the kitchen table, and I let myself admit something I've been avoiding for months. My marriage is over. Maybe it's been over for years, and I've just been too afraid or too stubborn to acknowledge it. But sitting here in the house we bought together, planning to spend Christmas alone while my husband celebrates with his family, the truth becomes unavoidable. The question now is what I'm going to do about it. Grace's voice echoes in my mind. Figure out what Harper wants, not what everyone else expects from her, but what I actually want for my own life. I want to feel valued, respected. I want my work to matter, my opinions to count, my presence to be something other than an inconvenience to be managed. I want to stop apologizing for existing, stop making myself smaller to fit into spaces that were never designed to hold me. And maybe, just maybe, I want to prove to everyone who ever dismissed me that they were wrong. The thought crystallizes into something approaching resolve. The Hartman pitch isn't just about winning a contract anymore. It's about proving to myself that I'm capable of succeeding on my own terms, that my value isn't determined by whether Ethan's family accepts me or whether my marriage survives. I spend the next 2 weeks perfecting every detail of my presentation. I rehearse until I can deliver it in my sleep. I prepare for every possible question, every potential objection. I treat it like a championship game where the stakes are nothing less than my future. Marcus calls a week before the presentation to confirm details. His voice carries the easy confidence of someone used to making million-dollar decisions. We're really looking forward to this, Harper. The preliminary work you've done has impressed everyone here. I'm excited to show you the full proposal. I keep my voice professional, but I feel a flutter of nerves in my stomach. This meeting will determine everything. I should mention, the media will probably be there. Marcus sounds almost apologetic. My partner Jonathan has some connections at Boston Business Journal. They want to do a piece on medical practices, embracing digital transformation. If the pitch goes well, they'd like to include you in the story. The media. My work potentially featured in a business publication that Ethan's father reads religiously. The irony isn't lost on me. That would be fine, I manage. More than fine, actually. After we hang up, I sit staring at my laptop screen. This is bigger than I'd realized. Not just a client pitch, but potential publicity, recognition, proof that my consulting business isn't just a hobby, but a legitimate, successful venture. I text Grace. Media might be at the Boston pitch. Business Journal wants to cover it. Her response comes immediately. That's amazing. Also, wear the navy suit. It photographs better than the gray. Trust Grace to think about visual presentation, even in moments of career significance. The days blur together as Christmas approaches. Westport transforms into a postcard of holiday cheer. Lights strung across Main Street, wreaths on every door, Christmas music drifting from shop windows. Everyone around me seems caught up in the season's magic while I exist in a bubble of focused preparation. Ethan packs for his trip to Greenwich on December 22nd. I watch from the bedroom doorway as he folds clothes into his overnight bag, the same bag he'd used when we traveled to Barcelona for our 5th anniversary. Back when we still took trips together, still pretended our marriage was working. "I'll be back on the 26th, he says without looking at me. "Will you be here? Where else would I be?" The question comes out sharper than I'd intended. He finally meets my eyes, and for just a second, I see something that might be regret. But he doesn't apologize, doesn't reconsider, doesn't ask me to come with him. "Have a good presentation," he says instead, then carries his bag downstairs. I hear the front door close, his car starting in the driveway, the sound of him leaving, physically this time, but really he'd been leaving for months, maybe years. The house settles into silence around me. I should feel lonely, abandoned, devastated. Instead, I feel a strange lightness, as if some weight I'd been carrying has finally been set down. That evening, I treat myself to takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant and a glass of the expensive wine I'd been saving for a special occasion. If spending Christmas Eve alone isn't special enough to break out the good wine, nothing is. Grace calls while I'm eating my pad Thai. "How are you holding up?" "Surprisingly okay. I twirl noodles around my fork. Ethan left for his mother's. The house is quiet. Want company? I can be there in 20 minutes. Actually, I'm good. I realize as I say it that it's true. I need tonight to be just me, preparing for tomorrow. Okay, but I'm calling you first thing in the morning. And Harper, you're going to kill this presentation. You know that, right?" After we hang up, I review my presentation materials one final time. Every slide perfect, every transition smooth, every argument compelling. This is the best work I've ever done, and whether or not I win the contract, I'll know I gave it everything I had. I sleep better that night than I have in weeks. December 23rd, dawn's cold and clear. I wake at 5:30, nerves and excitement tangling together in my chest. The presentation isn't until 10, but I want plenty of time to get to Boston, to settle myself, to transform into the confident professional I need to be. I dress in the navy suit Grace recommended, pair it with a silk blouse in deep burgundy that adds a touch of color without being too casual. Professional, but not boring. Competent, but approachable. I study myself in the mirror and barely recognize the woman staring back. She looks ready, capable, strong. The drive to Boston takes just under 2 hours. I listen to a podcast about medical industry trends, then switch to music when my nerves make it hard to concentrate. The city skyline emerges from the morning mist, all steel and glass catching the weak December sunlight. Hartman Medical's headquarters occupy the 20th floor of a building in the financial district. Floor-to-ceiling windows offer views of the harbor, where boats bob in the choppy winter water. The reception area is all modern minimalism, concrete and chrome, and strategic pops of color that suggest forward thinking but not frivolous. "Ms. Bennett?" The receptionist smiles warmly. "Mr. Hartman is expecting you. Conference room B. I'll take you back." My heels click against the polished concrete floor as I follow her down a corridor lined with framed awards and certifications. Through open office doors, I catch glimpses of the kind of organized chaos that suggests a busy, successful practice. People hunched over computers, phones ringing, the hum of productivity. The conference room is larger than I'd expected. A massive table that could easily seat 20 people, though only 5 chairs are occupied. Marcus rises to greet me, his handshake firm and welcoming. "Harper, so glad you could make it. Let me introduce everyone. This is Jonathan Pierce, my business partner. Sarah Chen, our CFO. David Okoye, our operations director. And this is Jennifer Walsh from Boston Business Journal." I shake hands all around. my nerves settling as I slip into professional mode. This is what I'm good at: presenting ideas, building cases, showing people how to transform their businesses. The media presence registers more fully now. Jennifer Walsh holds a digital recorder, and a photographer hovers near the windows, camera ready. This isn't just a pitch anymore. It's potentially my debut in the business press. Whenever you're ready, Marcus says, settling into his chair. I connect my laptop to the presentation screen and take a breath. This is it. Everything I've been working toward, all the late nights and careful preparation, ready to unfold. Thank you all for being here, I begin. Today I'm going to show you how Hartman Medical can increase patient engagement by 40%, reduce administrative costs by 30%, and position yourselves as the leading innovator in community healthcare across New England. The presentation unfolds better than I dared hope. My slides are clear, my arguments compelling. I watch faces around the table, seeing interest transform into genuine excitement as I walk through the implementation timeline and projected outcomes. Questions come fast. Jonathan asks about scalability. Sarah wants to know about integration costs. David challenges me on staff training requirements. I answer each query with confidence backed by research, showing that I've anticipated their concerns and developed solutions. This is innovative thinking, Jonathan says, leaning back in his chair. But the healthcare market is conservative. What makes you think patients will actually adopt these new engagement tools? I advance to my next slide, which shows data from pilot programs at 3 similar medical groups, because they already are. These practices saw adoption rates above 70% in the first 6 months. Patients want better communication with their healthcare providers. They want convenience, transparency, and personalization. We're just giving them tools that meet those needs. The photographer moves around the room, camera clicking. Jennifer Walsh scribbles notes, occasionally asking me to clarify a point or elaborate on a detail. 90 minutes later, I close my laptop and look around the table. Everyone's leaning forward, engaged, clearly interested. This is exactly what we've been looking for, Marcus says. He glances at his partners. Could you give us a few minutes to confer? Of course. I gather my materials and step into the hallway, my heart pounding. Jennifer Walsh follows me out. That was impressive. She tucks her recorder into her bag. I'd love to feature you in our article. The angle would be innovative women entrepreneurs transforming traditional industries. Could I get some background information? We talk for 20 minutes, me sharing my journey from corporate marketing to independent consulting, carefully editing out the personal drama that led me here. Jennifer's questions are smart and probing, but I find myself relaxing into the interview. This is my story, and it feels good to tell it on my own terms. Marcus emerges from the conference room, smiling. Can you come back in? Inside, all 5 faces around the table look pleased. Marcus speaks first. Harper, we want to move forward with your proposal. Full implementation starting January 15th. Sarah will work with you on the contract details, but I can tell you we're prepared to authorize the full budget you've outlined. The relief and joy hit me simultaneously. I've done it. Actually, done it. Won the biggest contract of my career, validated my expertise, proved that I belong here. Thank you. I shake hands with each of them, trying to maintain professional composure when I want to dance. I won't let you down. Jennifer appears at my elbow as I'm packing up my things. I'm going to send you the article for review tomorrow. It should run in next week's print edition and online on Christmas evening. I think our readers are going to love your story. Christmas evening, when Ethan and his family will presumably be gathered at Patricia's house, sipping champagne and congratulating themselves on a holiday well spent without the inconvenience of my presence. The irony is so perfect, it almost makes me laugh. I drive back to Connecticut in a daze, the reality of what just happened slowly sinking in. I've won the Hartman contract. I'm going to be featured in Boston Business Journal. My business is about to expand in ways I'd barely dared to hope for. More than that, I've proved something to myself, that I'm capable, valuable, successful on my own merits, that my worth isn't contingent on whether Ethan's family accepts me or whether my marriage survives. The house is dark when I pull into the driveway around 7, no lights in the windows, no car in the garage, just me and the achievement I'm carrying home like a torch in the darkness. I pour myself a glass of wine and call Grace. She answers on the first ring. Well, I got it. The words come out somewhere between a laugh and a sob. I got the contract. All of it. And they want to feature me in Boston Business Journal. Grace's shriek nearly deafens me. I knew it. I knew you would kill it. Harper, this is incredible. We talk for an hour. Grace insisting on every detail while I relive the presentation, the questions, the moment Marcus said yes. By the time we hang up, my face hurts from smiling. I should feel triumphant, vindicated. But sitting alone in my kitchen on Christmas Eve, I mostly feel sad. Sad that I have no one to share this with. Sad that my husband is spending the holiday with his family while I'm here celebrating the biggest professional achievement of my life with a glass of wine and an empty house. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus. Really glad this worked out. You're going to do great things for us. Merry Christmas, Harper. The kindness in his message breaks something open in my chest. I text back my thanks, then set the phone down and let myself cry. Not from sadness exactly, but from the release of tension I've been carrying for weeks, months, years. I cry for the woman I was when I married Ethan, so hopeful and naive. I cry for all the times I made myself smaller to fit into his family's expectations. I cry for the marriage that might have been if either of us had been braver or kinder or more honest. And then I stop crying. I wash my face, finish my wine, and I start planning. The Hartman project will require hiring additional staff. I'll need to expand my home office, maybe even look into commercial space. There will be contracts to negotiate, timelines to establish, deliverables to coordinate. For the first time in years, I'm excited about my future. Not the future I'm supposed to want, but the one I'm actively choosing to create. Christmas Day passes quietly. I sleep late, make myself an elaborate breakfast, take a long walk through the neighborhood. Other families are visible through lit windows, gathering around trees, opening presents. I don't let myself feel sorry for myself. This was my choice, or at least my acceptance of choices made for me. Around 5 in the evening, my phone rings. Grace again. Okay, I know you said you wanted to be alone, but Noah and I are ordering Chinese food and watching bad Christmas movies. Come over. I should refuse. Should maintain this solitude I've been cultivating. But the offer is too appealing to resist. I'll bring dessert. Grace and Noah's apartment is small but cozy, decorated with an eclectic mix of her photography and his vintage movie posters. They've made no attempt at traditional Christmas decorations beyond a small tabletop tree festooned with quirky ornaments. It feels welcoming in a way Patricia Bennett's formal living room never has. We eat too much Chinese food and watch Die Hard, which Noah insists is a Christmas movie, despite my protests. Grace shows me the latest photos from her engagement shoot, and I help them debate guest list conflicts for their June wedding. For a few hours, I feel almost normal. Not the woman whose husband uninvited her from Christmas, but just Harper. Friend, consultant, person with value beyond her relationship status. Around 10, my phone buzzes with an email notification. The subject line makes my breath catch. Boston Business Journal, article for review. I open it on Grace's couch, her and Noah peering over my shoulder as I scroll through the piece. Jennifer Walsh has done an excellent job. The article positions me as an innovative entrepreneur, bringing fresh perspective to healthcare marketing. There are quotes from Marcus about my vision and expertise, details about the Hartman contract, even a professional headshot the photographer took. But what makes my heart pound is the headline, Local Consultant Lands Major Contract, Proves Women-Led Businesses Can Compete with Established Firms. Harper, this is incredible. Grace breathes. You're going to be famous, not famous, but visible, validated, proven. When does it go live? Noah asks. Tomorrow evening, Christmas evening. The article will publish online while Ethan's family is presumably still gathered at Patricia's house, still congratulating themselves on a lovely holiday without my disruptive presence. The timing feels like fate's sense of humor. I drive home around midnight, the streets empty and quiet. Back in my dark house, I reread the article 3 more times, looking for flaws and finding none. This is real. My success, my achievement, my validation. Christmas Day arrives quiet and strange. I wake late, make myself coffee, and spend the morning reviewing implementation plans for the Hartman project. Around noon, I take a walk through the empty neighborhood, watching families through lit windows as they gather around trees and unwrap presents. The article goes live at 6 p.m. I'm sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop when the Boston Business Journal website updates. There it is, featured prominently on their homepage. My face, my story, my success. I share it on my LinkedIn profile with a simple caption, excited to announce my partnership with Hartman Medical Group and grateful to Boston Business Journal for featuring this project. The responses start immediately. Professional contacts congratulating me. Former colleagues expressing surprise and admiration. Complete strangers liking and sharing the article. Around 7, my phone starts ringing. Numbers I don't recognize. I let most go to voicemail, but curiosity makes me answer one. Ms. Bennett, this is Trevor Morgan from Connecticut Business Monthly. I just saw your feature in Boston Business Journal. We'd love to talk to you about a follow-up piece focusing on Connecticut entrepreneurs. I schedule an interview for next week, then field 3 more similar calls. The article is spreading, being shared across business networks, generating interest I hadn't anticipated. My email inbox fills with inquiries. 2 potential clients wanting to discuss projects. A medical practice in Rhode Island asking about consulting services. An invitation to speak at a healthcare marketing conference in March. This is what validation looks like. I realize. Not approval from people who barely tolerate me, but recognition from professionals who value my expertise. I spend Christmas evening fielding calls and emails, watching my professional world expand in real time, while Ethan's family presumably sits around Patricia's table, unaware that the woman they excluded is being celebrated in business circles they claim to respect. The next morning, December 26th, I wake to another flood of messages. The article has been shared hundreds of times overnight. My phone rings constantly with opportunities, interviews, potential clients. Ethan comes home around noon. I hear his car in the driveway, his footsteps on the porch. He walks into the kitchen and stops, seeing me at my laptop, surrounded by notes and contact information from nearly 24 hours of continuous inquiries. How was your Christmas? I ask, not looking up from my screen. Fine. Good. His voice is cautious. How was yours? Productive. I finally meet his eyes. Did you have a chance to check LinkedIn today? No. Why? I turn my laptop so he can see the screen. The Boston Business Journal article fills the display, my professional headshot prominent above the headline. He leans forward, reading. His expression shifts from confusion to surprise to something I can't quite identify. You got the Hartman contract. I did, and apparently it's newsworthy enough for a feature article. He reads in silence, scrolling through the piece. When he looks up, his face is carefully neutral. This is really impressive, Harper. Thank you. I closed the laptop. How was Greenwich? It was nice. Mom asked about you. His tone suggests this is a lie, or at best a charitable misrepresentation. I'm sure she did. We stand in awkward silence, 2 people who used to know how to talk to each other, but have somehow forgotten the language. I saw on your calendar that you have several client meetings next week, he says finally. Things are picking up. I pour myself a glass of water. I may need to look into office space soon. The home office is getting cramped. That's great. He sounds like he's congratulating a distant acquaintance. Really great. Ethan, I set down my glass. We need to talk. Actually talk. His face closes off. That defensive shield I've seen too many times. Can it wait? I'm tired from the drive. And there it is. The same pattern we've been following for months. I try to connect, he finds a reason to avoid. I push for communication, he retreats behind excuses. But something in me has shifted. The woman who won the Hartman contract, who got featured in a business journal, who spent Christmas alone and survived, that woman doesn't have patience for this dance anymore. No, actually, it can't wait. I straighten my shoulders. Ethan, our marriage isn't working. You know it. I know it. We're just going through motions at this point. He looks like he wants to argue, but can't quite manage it. What do you want me to say? I want you to be honest. With me and with yourself. Are you happy? Is this the marriage you want? The question hangs between us, heavy with implications neither of us wants to examine too closely. I don't know, he says finally, and at least it's honest. Well, I do know. I fold my arms across my chest. I'm not happy. I haven't been happy for a long time. And I don't think you have been either. So, what are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we stop pretending. Stop going through motions. Stop acting like everything's fine when clearly it's not. Ethan runs a hand through his hair, looking older than his 42 years. You want a divorce? It's not a question, but I answer anyway. I don't know yet, but I know I can't keep living like this, being excluded from your family, sleeping in separate bedrooms, barely speaking except about household logistics. My mother didn't mean he starts, then stops. The defense is automatic, but unconvincing even to him. Your mother knew exactly what she meant when she planned Christmas without me. Just like you knew exactly what you meant when you told me not to come. We stand in our kitchen, this space we designed together, and I see the distance between us, measured not in feet, but in all the things we've never said, all the hurts we've never addressed. I need time, I say finally, to figure out what I want, what kind of life I'm willing to settle for. And if I said I don't want a divorce, his voice is quiet, then you need to start acting like my husband instead of someone who tolerates my presence when absolutely necessary. The words are harsher than I'd intended, but they're true. We both know it. Ethan picks up his overnight bag from where he'd set it by the door. I should unpack. Think about what you said. After he leaves, I return to my laptop and the flood of professional opportunities that await my response. My phone buzzes with another congratulatory message, this one from a colleague I haven't spoken to in 3 years. The contrast is stark. Professional success and recognition flooding in while my personal life crumbles. But maybe that's okay. Maybe I don't need both. Maybe choosing myself, my career, my own definition of success is enough. The following week blurs past in a flurry of activity. Conference calls with Hartman Medical to begin implementation planning, meetings with potential new clients whose interest was sparked by the journal article, an interview with Connecticut Business Monthly, coffee with Grace to debrief everything. Ethan and I maintain a careful distance. We're polite but distant, two people sharing space but not lives. He starts sleeping in the guest room permanently. Neither of us comments on it. New Year's Eve arrives, and for the first time in 11 years, we don't spend it together. Ethan goes to a party with friends from his law firm. I decline Grace's invitation to join her and Noah, choosing instead to spend the evening alone with a good bottle of wine and my laptop, mapping out business strategy for the coming year. As midnight approaches, I stand at my kitchen window watching fireworks bloom over Long Island Sound in the distance. The neighborhood erupts in celebration, horns honking, people cheering from nearby houses. My phone buzzes with a text from Grace. Happy New Year! Love you. I respond in kind, then set the phone down and raise my glass in a solitary toast to new beginnings, to choosing myself, to whatever comes next. The fireworks continue, bright explosions of color against the black sky. I watch them until they fade, leaving only smoke and darkness and the promise of a morning that will dawn on a new year, a new version of myself. January brings cold clarity and difficult decisions. The Connecticut Business Monthly article runs in their first issue of the year, generating another wave of professional interest. 3 new clients sign contracts. I hire 2 contractors to help with overflow work. My home office transforms from a spare bedroom into a legitimate business headquarters, and I call a divorce lawyer. Her name is Rebecca Morrison, recommended by Grace's attorney friend. She has kind eyes and a no-nonsense approach that I find reassuring. Walk me through your situation, she says in our first meeting. I tell her everything: the slow erosion of my marriage, the exclusion from Christmas, Ethan's family's treatment, the separate bedrooms, the growing distance. Do you have proof of infidelity? She asks. No, I don't think he's cheating. I think he just doesn't want to be married anymore, but won't admit it. Rebecca nods. Connecticut is a no-fault divorce state, so we don't need to prove wrongdoing. The question is, are you sure this is what you want? Am I sure? I've been asking myself that question for weeks, but sitting in Rebecca's office, looking at divorce paperwork that will legally end my 11-year marriage, the answer crystallizes with surprising clarity. Yes, I'm sure. The process is both simpler and more complicated than I'd imagined. Papers to file, assets to divide, our house purchased together, but with my inheritance providing the down payment, retirement accounts, shared debts that aren't really shared anymore. Rebecca files the initial paperwork in mid-January. Ethan receives the divorce petition on January 23rd, served by a process server at his office. He calls me that evening, his voice tight with anger. You filed for divorce without even discussing it? We discussed it, I remind him, on December 26th, when I told you our marriage wasn't working. I thought we were just talking. Not that you were planning to actually end things. What did you think would happen, Ethan? That we'd keep living as roommates indefinitely? That I'd keep accepting being excluded from your life? Silence on his end, heavy with things he doesn't know how to say. My attorney will be in touch, I say finally. I think it's better if we communicate through lawyers from here on out. After I hang up, I pour myself a glass of wine and call Grace. I filed for divorce. Her response is immediate. How do you feel? Scared, sad, relieved, all of it at once. That sounds about right. Grace's voice is gentle. Want company? Actually, I think I need to sit with this. Just me. Okay, but I'm proud of you, Harper, for choosing yourself. After we hang up, I wander through the house that will soon no longer be mine, at least not in its current form. We'll have to sell it, divide the proceeds. This home I'd thought would be ours forever will belong to someone else. But as I walk from room to room, I realize I'm not as attached as I thought I'd be. This house never really felt like mine. It was always Ethan's taste, Ethan's preferences, Ethan's vision. I'd agreed to everything, making myself flexible and accommodating, not realizing I was erasing myself in the process. My phone buzzes with an email. Marcus Hartman checking in on the project timeline. I respond immediately, grateful for the distraction of work. The Hartman implementation launches in early February. It's ambitious and complicated, and exactly the kind of challenge I need. I throw myself into the work, managing the technical team, coordinating with medical staff, troubleshooting problems as they arise. The results exceed even my optimistic projections. Patient engagement increases by 43% in the first month. Administrative efficiency improves measurably. Marcus sends an email praising the early outcomes and hinting at expansion to his Rhode Island practices. My business explodes. not just grows, but explodes. By March, I have more work than I can handle alone. I hire a full-time project manager and 2 additional contractors. I sign a lease on a small office space in downtown Westport, transforming my consulting practice into an actual company. Grace insists on throwing me a business launch party. It's small, just a dozen close friends and professional contacts, but it feels significant. I'm building something real, something mine. The divorce proceedings drag on through winter into spring. Ethan contests the asset division, claiming he contributed more to the house than my inheritance did. His attorney files motions questioning my business's actual value, suggesting I'm inflating numbers to look more successful than I am. Rebecca handles it all with calm efficiency, producing documentation that proves every claim I've made. Tax returns, client contracts, bank statements showing steady business growth. In April, we finally sit down for mediation. Ethan and I in the same room for the first time since January, lawyers flanking us like opposing armies. He looks older, tired, or maybe I'm just seeing him clearly for the first time in years. The mediator walks us through each disputed item. The house. We agree to sell it and split proceeds 70-30 in my favor, since my inheritance provided the down payment. Retirement accounts. We each keep our own. My business. I keep full ownership, with Ethan receiving no stake in future earnings. By the end of the 6-hour session, we've hammered out an agreement. It's not entirely what either of us wanted, but it's fair. More importantly, it's final. Outside the mediator's office, Ethan stops me before I can reach my car. Harper, wait. I turn wary. I'm sorry. His voice is quiet. For how I treated you, for my family's treatment, for all of it. The apology comes too late to fix anything, but I appreciate it anyway. Thank you for saying that. You're really doing well. With your business, I saw the article in Connecticut Monthly. You were always capable of this. I just needed the space to discover it. I meet his eyes. I hope you find happiness, Ethan. Real happiness, not just what your family expects. He nods, and I see something that might be regret cross his face. Then he walks to his car, and I walk to mine, and that's how our marriage ends. Not with drama or fireworks, but with a quiet acknowledgement in a parking lot. The divorce is finalized in June, 3 weeks before Grace's wedding. She insists I bring a +1, but I go alone, and I'm okay with that. The ceremony is beautiful. Grace in a burgundy and gold gown that photographs like a dream. Noah looking at her like she hung the moon. Their vows are personal and funny and deeply romantic. Watching them, I don't feel bitter or sad about my own failed marriage. Instead, I feel grateful. Grateful for friends who stick by me. Grateful for the courage to choose myself. Grateful for the chance to build a life that's actually mine. At the reception, Patricia Bennett's son isn't there to judge me. Madison isn't there to look through me. I'm just Harper, business owner and friend, wearing a dress I chose because I liked it. Drinking champagne because I wanted to, celebrating love without wondering if I'm somehow doing it wrong. Grace pulls me onto the dance floor during a slow song. Noah's off talking to his groomsmen, so it's just us, swaying to music and laughing about nothing and everything. You look happy, she says, really happy. I am. In saying it, I realize it's true. I'm happy. Maybe for the first time in years. The business continues growing. By fall, I've hired 3 full-time employees and moved to a larger office. Revenue projections exceed my wildest expectations from a year ago. I'm invited to speak at conferences, to write articles for business publications, to consult on projects across New England. On Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after Ethan uninvited me from his family's celebration, I host a holiday party at my new apartment. It's modest compared to the house I used to share with Ethan, but it's mine. Every piece of furniture, every paint color, every decoration chosen by me for me. Grace and Noah, come. Marcus Hartman and his wife. My employees and several clients who've become friends. People fill my living room with laughter and warmth, celebrating not just the holiday, but the community we've built together. At midnight, after everyone's left, I stand at my window watching snow fall over Westport. My phone shows messages from the evening, photos Grace took, thank you texts from guests, a notification that my year-end revenue exceeded $500,000, and one text from an unknown number. Saw your company featured in Forbes Small Business Spotlight. Congratulations, you've done incredible things. Ethan, I read it twice, then delete it, not out of anger, but because I don't need his validation anymore. I know what I've accomplished. I know my worth. The snow continues falling, blanketing the world in fresh white. A new year approaches, full of possibilities I'm actually excited to explore. Not the future I'd planned when I married Ethan, but something better, something mine. I think about that woman from a year ago, the one who'd heard, "Don't come to Christmas, you'll ruin everything like you always do," and felt like her world was ending. I wish I could tell her what I know now, that the end of one story is just the beginning of another, that being excluded from spaces that never wanted you is actually a gift, that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. Most of all, I'd tell her that she's stronger than she knows, that she'll not only survive, but thrive, that the business she's building in her spare time will become something extraordinary, that the pain she's feeling will transform into purpose. But she'll figure it out on her own, the same way I did, by putting one foot in front of the other, by refusing to make herself smaller, by building something that's entirely, completely, wonderfully hers. Outside my window, the snow falls softly, covering old footprints and creating space for new paths. I raise a glass of champagne in a solitary toast to new beginnings, to choosing yourself, to the life you build from the ashes of what broke you, and to the quiet satisfaction of proving everyone wrong by succeeding on your own terms, without their permission or approval. The city lights reflect off the fresh snow, turning everything golden. Tomorrow is Christmas. I'll spend it however I choose. Maybe alone, maybe with friends, maybe working on the next big project. It doesn't matter, because I'm no longer waiting for someone else to give me permission to exist, to succeed, to take up space in the world. I am enough. My work matters. My choices are valid. And that, more than any holiday invitation, or family approval, or husband support, is the greatest gift I could have given myself.